this is Megan with Little Gray Squirrel. I have the final video in a series that shows you how to design in Silhouette Studio using graphics and ClipArt, making cute Valentine cards. In this video, I will show you how to open the files that you have either downloaded from my resource library or ones that you've already created. Then I will show you how to set up your silhouette for print and cut the designs, and assemble the peel open cards and envelopes. The link to my blog post with all the information and videos in this series is in the description below. If you have the whole series, thank you, I really appreciate it. I hope you've learned confidence to use graphics in your designs using Silhouette Studio. Please share the blog post with anyone you think would appreciate it. I have about 7 steps here to do the print and cut before I get to put cards together, so this may end up being another long video, but it is very step-by-step for those who need it. And if you don't need step-by-step, you can always skim, but you might miss a tip. First, you're going to need to create a file or download the one that I offer for free. So to download the file that I have created in this tutorial, you just go to littlegraysquirrel.com, or you can use the link to the post in the description below. So if you open my website, on the top menu bar here, you'll see Library. So click on Get the Password. And here on this form, just put in your name. Your first name's fine, your email, and subscribe. So this will subscribe you to my newsletter. I don't send out junk. I don't send out even a whole lot of emails. I try to only post things when I update the website, when I add new files, things that you might be interested in as a subscriber. But you're always welcome to unsubscribe at any time. So when you fill this out and click subscribe, you'll get the password, which you will then go to this Little Gray Squirrel free resource library page, and there'll be a bar here, and you just type in the password and hit enter, and then you'll see this information. So the files that I've created, I haven't put them in here yet because I haven't finished this tutorial, but when they are, they'll be here with, these are some of the other files that I have in here for my subscribers. So go ahead and do that. Let's see here. So we can get rid of this. You will see the Valentine card tutorial, a zip file is what it will be, and you can go ahead and download that and right click the file to unzip it, and then you will have the files opened up. So right now I only have the Silhouette Studio file, and I try to include a PNG and a JPEG for people who just need to print it out who don't have the silhouette. And then also it shows a colored icon, so you can see it too. So I try to include those in all my free files. So go ahead and choose the first one that we are going to do. Okay, so the first file I'm going to open is the Valentine card peel open. So this one, again, we have 3 ways to bring a file into Silhouette. You can either click it and drag it in, you will notice that it is not centered, so you can do that yourself, or you can go to File, Open, and then choose and open. And that will open the file with the name as I described previously in the tutorial. So, okay, so here's our file. It's already open. The files that I created should be ready to send to the printer, but it's always a good idea to double check, so we'll go through the steps here. The correct setup of your software and your machine prevents most of the issues that people have using the Silhouette. So it's good to always just check off every issue to prevent any problems later on. First, we will open the page setup panel. So this is up here, this little page. And you pretty much just go top to bottom, making sure everything's right. So we make sure we have the cameo selected. We make sure that the cutting mat is 12 by 12, because that's what I'll be using. We make sure your media is letter size, so 8.5 by 11. If I have some time, I might show using the file on a 12 by 12 inch cardstock, but we'll have to see how that goes. And then your orientation, you want it letter, you don't want landscape. It can cause problems with the printer. If you don't absolutely need it, don't use it. And then this next step is new with version 4.2 of the software. So I am currently on version 4.3.356. 4.3 was the version for the Silhouette Cameo 4. 4.2 came out last year, and it had a lot of new really cool features. And so one of those is print bleed. So you click the print bleed, and the bleed radius defaults to 0.05, and that's fine, just leave it. It's not going to show anything different right now, but when you go to print it, it's going to add a 0.05 inch border of the same color of your image when it's printed out, so that when you cut it, if your machine isn't cutting perfectly along the line, you won't have like a little white gap. So it looks a lot more professional, and that's actually what professional printers use, is the print bleed. Next is the making sure that the registration marks are on, which you can obviously already see that they're here, but if they weren't here, you would just click on this icon here, make sure registration marks are on, and that they're set to the default. Okay, so now the next step is to get the paper ready to print. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera, and I'm going to show you the paper that I have, the tools that we're going to use for this project, and go from there. So here are the supplies that we need to do our print and cut Valentines. So I have my Silhouette Cameo 4 and the Auto Blade that are set up, and I am using Silhouette Business Edition so that I can access the puzzle creator tool. I have my mats. So the paper that I'm going to use, I have a couple different kinds. So when I use copy paper, I try to use an older mat. So this one's been used quite a bit. It still has some good stick to it, but it's not going to tear the copy paper. And then this one is a little newer. So this one's better for cardstock because it'll hold it in place and not slide around the mat too much. So you can use one or use some older ones, combination of both. The paper that I'm going to be using for the first one, the peel open, is like a cardstock, and this is some stuff that I've had for a long time. It's slightly textured, it's white on one side. I thought it would be cute to use a patterned cardstock, and I will print on one side, and that way the back is finished and has a nice design on it as well. And then I came across this marble paper on Amazon, and it was so pretty, so I had to try it. So it comes in a pad of 30 sheets, and it was super cheap for 30 sheets. And the paper, I would say, it's definitely thicker than copy paper, but maybe not quite as thick as the textured cardstock. So it's somewhere in the middle, but definitely has like a decent thickness to it. And then for the stickers, I have two kinds of sticker paper. So this is one I've used probably 150 sheets of this kind. This is a glossy, and it works great in my Epson printer as long as I only load one sheet at a time. And then you can also use, well, there's lots of kinds, but I also use Avery printer labels, and I got this at Goodwill. So you can get it online. If you're lucky, you can find some at Goodwill, whatever. This one, since it's for mailing labels, when you set up your page, you just make sure that, well, you can either leave it or take off a row of the hearts so that it doesn't waste the ink and try to cut in the middle of those. I'll also use some tacky glue to glue the peel open cards together. You could use a tape runner or whatever it is that you use for your crafting, but this one I used, and actually it dries really quick and really strong, so that's what I will be using. Okay, so the next step in the print and cut is to get your paper ready to print. So I just showed you all the supplies I was using. These are the papers that I've chosen for the projects today. So I'm going to use this marble paper to print out the peel open cards. So I'm going to take you over to my printer and show you how to load and set that up. This is my printer. It is the Epson Workforce WF7610. It is wide format. It prints, let's see here, up to, I know I printed it up to 11 by 17, and yeah, that's what it shows there. Right now I have it set up for 8.5 by 11, just the letter size. So I have the first paper that I'm going to print the peel open Valentines on, and I want to load it with the side that I want printed face down. So this is the side it's going to print on. I just load it in there. I close the tray, and then I get a notification. Let's see if I can not film myself here. So the paper size is letter, that's correct. Paper type, I want to change that So I'm going to do Premium Matte and then select OK. Then I'm going to open up my tray catcher here, and I'm going to go back and set up the software to send to the printer. The next step in Print and Cut is to send the design from the Silhouette software to the printer. So we are going to go up to File and select Print. We're going to choose the correct printer. So I'm going to choose my Epson that's not the fax, so Epson here. And then I'm going to open Preferences. Okay, so under Preferences, there's some things you want to change. So the document size, if you're using anything other than an 8.5 by 11, but we are, so that will stay the same. The paper type, I'm going to choose Premium Presentation Paper Matte just because it's the thicker cardstock. Quality, I'm going to choose High Quality. I'm going to leave it on the color. And let's see if there's anything else. You can do a print preview if you'd like, well, depending on your printer. And then I will select OK. That will store the settings that we just made, and then go ahead and print. Depending on how much information is on the screen, it might take a while, but we can just wait until this bar loads. And then I will go over to the printer and we can watch it print. And there is our printout. Super cute. And then on the back is the marble. While your design is printing or just after, let's go ahead and set up the Cameo. So it's all plugged in. I use the USB. Turn the power on. And I'm going to put my auto blade in the #1 tool holder. So this is the newer Cameo 4 auto blade. It has a little strip here. The machine can tell which blade is loaded. So this one goes from 0 to 10, and it auto sets. So all we have to do is make sure we put it in the #1 carrier. It's the only one it will fit in. Make sure it's pushed down all the way, and then lock it in place, and it'll give it a nice good click. So that is loaded and ready to go. We also want to make sure if you've ever changed your rollers, if you cut without a mat, and you move your rollers over, you want to make sure that they are lined up properly for your mat to go in there, and that your lock is in the up position and your bar is locked down. So I have the printed out design, and it is put in the upper left hand corner of my mat. So I'm going to set this up so the edge of the mat lines up with this gray line, and just put a little, I have my hand on this so it's pushed up evenly against the rollers, and I'm going to push this up, which is the load mat button. So the software is going to know that we're using the mat because we have the mat turned on. So we already have our paper printed out, and the paper is on the mat, and the mat is loaded into the machine. We're going to click on Send. We're going to make sure that any lines that are supposed to be cut are the correct color for the tool carrier you're using. I am using the auto blade in the tool 1 space, so the lines that I should be using are red. If I were using tool 2, then the cut lines would need to be blue. So we'll close that. The lines that I have that I want to cut out are red. And then now we want to take a look at the suggested settings. So what I'm using is it's a light cardstock. So I chose cardstock plain from the drop down. Make sure it's set to cut, and make sure that the tool is correct, that you're using the auto blade and not the deep cut blade or the ratchet blade. When you're first using a machine, you'll find that machines are different, blades are different, the materials are different, even different kinds of paper are going to cut different. Try these suggested settings, see how they work for you, and if you need to, you can make adjustments. When everything's set up the way you want it to, and you think that these settings are good for the type of material you're using, you can go ahead and send. so that's all cut. Now before I unload the machine, I want to make sure that that the settings were ideal and that they cut all the way through the paper, which it looks like they did. Look how clean that cut. So I will go ahead and unload this and take the excess paper off of here. You can see the print bleed. This is, you know, we turned that on so that it printed a little bit outside of the cut line, and that way, even if the cut was a little bit off, you don't get the white. I'll show you as soon as I remove these from the mat what that looks like. So now it's time to remove the cardstock from the silhouette mat. It just finished cutting, and I get to glue it together. So carefully, you can peel off the excess parts of the cardstock from the mat. So when you cut with the silhouette, you want to make sure you're going all the way through your material, but not too far into the mat because you don't want to damage it. So there's a fine line. So if you have paper with cut with straight edges, you can just go ahead and fold it a few times and it'll pop right out. So we can set that aside. We can save those pieces. So I have You Are Very Special, and then when you're removing the pieces that you want to keep, if it's pretty sticky mat, you can turn the mat upside down and then pull the mat off of your design, and that keeps it nice and straight without curling. So I'm going to pull the rest of these off. And this part, the little finger part, came out okay. That's fine. It's got to come off anyway. And then carefully remove that. And then I get it. Just take this off the mat, throw it away. All right, so these are the pieces that I have. So I have the front and back to this card, front and back to this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this piece out. It doesn't need to be there. When we assemble these, you want to make sure that they go on so that when it's opened, you see the design right side up. You don't want to accidentally put them on upside down. So be careful when you're putting these together. Okay, so this, just set that there. And then on the back side of this one, you can see the little perforated edge. So we're going to glue just along this part here, between the perforated edge and the edge of the paper. So I was going to use my Aleene's tacky glue, and just a tiny bit, a little bit goes a long way. If it bleeds into the rest of the design, then it's going to stick to your pretty design here. So. All right, so now that I've turned that, I want to make sure it's still facing the right direction. So I got the To and From and the Very Special. And I'm going to carefully line them up. I don't want to be moving around too much afterwards. So I'm going to line up the bottom. So just set it there. You can adjust a little bit if you need to once you get it put together. Make sure all the corners are lined up, and then just tap it into place gently. And it's better for the glue to come out the edge than in the middle. So, all right, so there is our peel open Valentine. Now the kids can write To and From, and then they can peel them open and see their little message inside. This is the Valentine puzzle that I designed in part 2 of my 4-part series. I will show you how to set up and do a print and cut on a 12 by 12 inch piece of cardstock. All the files that I've created in this tutorial are available for free in my resource library, but they're all set up as an 8.5 by 11 since most people don't have the wide format printer. But I just wanted to show you how it can be done in case you do, or in case you get one, because they're pretty cool to be able to print on bigger pieces of paper. Let's get started. Okay, so setting up the print and cut, we just did that for the Peel Open Valentine, but I'll walk through it again. So first you want to open your design in your Silhouette Studio, and we're going to open the page setup. It should already be set up if you're using one of my files, but just in case it's not, we'll go back through it. So choose your Cameo, choose the cutting mat. We're using the 12 inch by 12 inch Cameo mat. The media size, so I'm going to change this, so we're going to do the 12 by 12. So it's going to fill the whole screen. So now with this more space here, we can actually duplicate one of these. And now we can cut 6 on one piece of paper. We can't fill any more on here just because of the size that we have. But what I am going to do is move these closer together so that it doesn't use as much paper, so I will still be able to use maybe some of these edges for another project. So we're just going to keep that in mind. I don't want to put these pieces, these images, right next to each other, because I am going to use the print bleed option, so I want to give a chance for that to happen without running into the other image next to it. Okay, and then I'm going to select these 3 on the bottom, move them up just a little bit, just using my up cursor. And that's good. Okay, so that's what I'd like them to be on the screen. Then continuing with our setup, we want to make sure the orientation is in a portrait, which means that this box is in the upper left-hand corner of the mat and on the paper where it's going to print. If you want, you can turn on the print border. So I will need to change this. So when I go into my printer setup, I'm going to change that as well. So that's what will change the print border. So this is telling me that my printer is expecting 8.5 by 11, but we need to change it to 12 by 12. So I will turn that off for now. And then the cut border is of course going to cut within these marks here. So I don't need those on. And then this is the print bleed that I mentioned we're going to turn on. So it is checked right now. It will print with just a little bit extra ink outside of these red areas, but it's not going to show up until it actually prints, so we won't see it in the design screen. The bleed radius is set here at 0.005, which is just fine. So we have our page set up. I'm going to go to the send and make sure that we have our cut lines, and we do. These are the red. The only thing that we want to have cut out are the puzzle pieces, and they're all showing there. So now I'm going to go back to design, and I'm going to go to file and print. So now I'm going to set up my printer preferences. So I'm going to select my Epson printer, which it is here. It's also a fax machine, so you want to make sure you don't choose fax if you have that showing up. I'm just choosing my Epson. I'm going to go into preferences and then just work through the options here. So we want to change our document size, and if it doesn't show, 12 by 12 is an option. We're going to go to user defined, and I'm just going to type in 12 by 12. Make sure it's in inches. Select OK. So since I chose the premium presentation paper, it's not going to let me change the quality. If it does, you always want to choose high quality and choose color if that's what you're printing in. Just one copy. You can do a print preview if you'd like. I'm not going to today, and select OK. Okay, now before I print, I'm going to go load the paper into my printer. So let's switch over to the other camera and watch how that happens. So this, the green marble is the color that I chose that I'm going to print on the white side so that the back of the puzzle just has a pretty pattern on it. And I got this from the marble 12 by 12 inch cardstock sheet that I got off of Amazon. And as I had mentioned before, it's a decent thickness. It's not super thick, so it's great for cutting and peeling off your mat without tearing, but not too thick. So I should be able to just load this through my machine in the regular carrier. So we'll come over to my printer. So hello. So first thing, make sure it's on. And close it. And I'm going to change the paper. So take out the copy paper I had. This tray actually extends. So if you were cutting or if you were printing your 11 by 17, you would extend this out, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to open this part here. You want to load your paper in so that it's going to print properly from your machine. So I need to load it with the white side down. Slide it in here and make sure that this bottom piece here. Okay, so I have the paper loaded in the machine. Close it in there, and it's going to prompt to ask me. Paper size is going to be user defined, and then we'll put in our, we can just enter in, make sure you put the 00 after the 12. Can you see that there? There we go. So 12 inches and return, and we're going to set the bottom to 12. Okay, so now we're set up for 12 by 12. So I got my tray open to catch this. I'm gonna go back to the computer and send my design to print. I just set up my printer with the paper. It's all loaded, so we will go ahead and select print. Now this could take a while for all this. The graphic has to be sent to the printer. And then since it's a high quality print and it's quite a bit of ink, it's probably gonna take a little bit to print it, so I'll just kind of maybe speed up a little bit, but show you some of the process. So there is our 12 by 12 inch print and cut on our green marble paper, and we are going to apply this to our mat. So I just printed out the Love is in the Air on the cardstock. And I have the 12 by 12 inch cardstock on my mat, which is loaded on my machine. So now I'm going to send to cut. Okay, so we still have our cut lines on. We didn't move anything on the screen, so everything should be just perfect. The cardstock plane is selected. We have it set to cut. We have the auto blade selected, which I'm using in tool 1. The cut lines are on. It's going to cut at a 3 with a force of 20 and a speed of 4, and it's going to give it 1 pass. So I'm going to send it through 1 time, and I'm not going to unload the mat. I'm going to make sure that the puzzle pieces all got cut all the way through. If not, I can send it again to make sure all the pieces got cut out in the same spot. And once you unload it, it's really difficult to get it to line up again. So I'm going to go ahead and click send. The machine is going to read the registration marks. So now I'm going to check and make sure that it cut all the way through before I remove the mat from the machine. Let's take out 1 piece here. Okay, looks good. Here are the puzzle pieces all cut out. They're still on my mat. So I'm going to peel off this outside paper, the excess stuff that I don't need, and I'm going to save it because I save paper. So carefully remove it from the mat, make sure that it doesn't pull up any of the puzzle pieces. And there's a little part that didn't get cut all the way through. So just hold that down and then set this aside. We'll take apart one at a time and put it in a little pile off to the side, and then we'll make the envelopes. So we'll be able to put those in there. So, if you have one of the little spatula tools, you can use that. We have the Silhouette Pick-Me-Up tool, which has the tapered end. We could use that. You could use your X-Acto, whatever you want to use to carefully remove the pieces from the sticky mat. And it's actually not too bad if you're not trying to do this on camera. So there is one of our puzzle cards, and we'll set that to the side, and I will take the rest off. The next step in the puzzle and envelope Valentine is to print the envelopes. I created this file in part 2 of this 4-part series. I used the flexi shapes to draw the outline of the envelope, and I used the Sweetheart font for the text. The file's already set up. What you have to do is click send, make sure the line's still there. I'm going to go to File, Print. I just printed the last one in 12 by 12, but this one I'm just going to do in 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to print 2 of them. So go back to select my printer, go to Preferences, User Defined is no longer, so I'm just going to do letter, 8.5 by 11. It is no longer presentation paper, I'm just going to do regular plain paper. High quality color, and this time I'm going to print 2 copies. If you're doing a print and cut of the same multiple of the same, it is a lot faster to increase the number of copies that you are going to print versus just printing the same one and then printing another one and printing another one, because it doesn't have to send to the printer as many times. So that'll save you a little bit of time. You of course would want to do one first, ideally, because you wouldn't want to print like 10 and then have something be wrong with it. So, kind of do what's right for your situation. I'm going to print 2 copies. And okay, so I have to go back and set up my printer for the copy paper, because I still have that set to 12 by 12. Something you may notice on here is that you can see the to and from, and you can see the registration marks, but you can't see the outline of the envelope. So in Silhouette Studio, if you draw a shape, it's just a line, and that line is not going to print unless you tell the software to print the lines of the selected shape, or unless you thicken the lines. So since I don't actually need the lines, I'm just going to leave them off, and it'll just cut out the envelope, and that's all we need to know. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on my mat and load them in the machine. I have my printed sheet on the mat, and I have the mat loaded in the machine. I have copy paper selected. It is set to cut. I'm using the auto blade. I have the red lines already highlighted. It says it's a blade of 2. Since I'm new to this machine, I'm going to go ahead and try that, see how it goes. I'm thinking it probably only needs a 1, but I'm just going to go with it. So force 15, speed of 10, and 1 pass. Let's go ahead and send. Alright, so let's test this, make sure it cut all the way through, which I can pretty much see that it did. Oops, plenty. Okay, and go ahead and unload. Alright, let's try this out. Okay, so I got my envelopes cut out. Just a super basic shape, and then I had mentioned before when I cut copy paper I use a mat that's older so it's not as sticky. The paper comes off really nice. Just peel it off. Okay, so we have our puzzle pieces cut out and they're going to go in the envelope. So this is of course the flap. So we want the to and from to be on the outside of the envelope. We want this flat line to line up with the 2 points of the triangle here. Just like that, and then we will fold the point. That nicely. Okay, so now we're going to open this back up. And I'm going to use my tacky glue, just a tiny bit again. So we're only going to put glue along one seam here, and then we're going to press this together. And just a little bit. There's our envelope. So I'm going to let this go ahead and dry for a little bit, and then you can write to and from and put the puzzle pieces in. Okay, while these are drying, let's go ahead and make the stickers. The very last part that I have here in my 4-part series designing Valentines using ClipArts and graphics in Silhouette Studio is make the print and cut stickers. We're going to use a glossy sticker paper. We're going to print out the hearts that we already have here and cut them out. So our paper's already set up with our registration marks just like the other ones were. So we're going to go to send. Make sure our cut lines are all where we want them. I'm going to go to file, open the printer. Printer preferences. So I'm still going to do this on 8.5 by 11, but I need to change the paper type. So I'm going to use, it's a glossy paper, so you just kind of have to choose one that's close. I'm going to choose photo paper glossy, and I'm going to do high quality. We have color. I only need 1 copy because this is actually going to cut, I think it's about 99 hearts, so that's a lot of hearts. If you don't need that many, you can always just ungroup them and take off however many you don't want to cut, so you're not using a whole, but you can also use the sticker somewhere else too, so it's up to you. So we're just going to cut 1 copy, and we're going to click OK. So now I'm going to go over to the printer and set that up to accept my glossy paper. So sometimes when I print, there isn't an exact match of what I want to print with what I have, what my choices are. So I'm okay with this, so I'm just going to choose yes. Continue printing. This just came out of the printer, and even I mean, it's still in the printer, and no smudges. This paper is really great. I really like this sticker paper. Let's go ahead and put it on our mat and stick it in the machine. So this came out, these are, they go like this. You want to make sure that you don't misplace where the square goes. This always goes in the upper left-hand corner of the mat. So I'm going to put this on my stickier mat and go ahead and load it in the machine. So the hearts are all printed out on the glossy sticker paper. I have it on my mat and loaded in the machine. I'm going to, see, I already have send open. I'm going to change the material to sticker paper, and I haven't actually selected sticker paper yet with the Cameo in this new software, so I gotta see what that looks like. See if it actually is. Go sticker paper. There's sticker paper white. Let's see what my other options are. So most of these, I should mention, materials that are in the Silhouette software as presets are referring to the Silhouette products. So they have clear sticker paper, glitter sticker paper, glow-in-the-dark sticker paper, temporary tattoos. So if you're using a product that's not a Silhouette product, you might need to make adjustments for that. So that's partly where the adjustments need to come in. I'm going to choose the sticker paper white. Has it at a blade 2 with a force of 14. Let's go ahead and send it and see how it cuts. I finally have all the pieces together for both the invitations. I just print and cut the stickers, so I'm going to peel this off my mat. I'll test one out. There it is. How cute is that? Okay. We'll open this one up. Let's do one on this one. Those are all ready. So there we have it. In our 4-part series here, we created a peel open and a puzzle with an envelope and some stickers. And if you want to see the peel open one, you want to try this out? Okay, well, let's watch this. All right, so you stick your finger in there. Do you think the kids would be this careful? Probably not. There it is. Hey, Cupcake, you're pretty sweet. To and from. So there are homemade Valentines using graphics and designing in Silhouette Studio.